Mike, nice to meet you, Keith.
Eric?
Great.
Hey Keith and Paul, how are you, man? Good.
I'm going to come by and just write down your names, guys, so we can get them in advance, and we want to have them up for the webcast.
Okay.
So let's come back and piece of paper and stuff like that.
Fantastic. We also have the guy that's going to be moderating it. He's going to be on his way here, so bring an extra piece of paper.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Here, yeah. This is perfect. ESQUIUEL?
VEL is in Victor.
VEL, sorry about that.
That's about it. That's cool.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
You guys have everything you need for that?
We do.
If you have one more mic, it'd be cool.
I don't.
We can share.
So we can share
We
it.
can, we can make it work. Yeah, we'll make it work.
I can use my teacher.
Does this have any length?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's good. That's cool.
So when we get to the
Work it out.
kind of questions from the audience kind of portion of things, you guys have a bit of a presentation first? Or?
No, I
Just
think
talk.
we're just
We
going
can just talk. We'll get. Yeah, we'll work it out. I'll tell you what. I'll wing it. I'll moderate for us.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you leading questions. I've done so many. I've done so many of these. I know it backwards.
We've got Tristan and Lucas here going to be doing the mic running.
Okay.
So we'll kind of call on people and try and get the mics to them as quick as
Sure.
possible. Just that for the webcast, so that everybody can hear out.
Of course,
in
right.
South America.
Okay.
Else they are, can kind of hear the questions.
Cool,
as well.
cool.
Yes, cool.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Guys.
Yep.
If you need anything, just let me know. Okay?
All right, we'll do. Thanks.
Come on. Oh, we got two more. Hey, sit. Come sit, come sit. Bring up a
More people here.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Don't know, okay, let's go this way. We'll move up that way a little bit. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna be on TV. That's exciting.
Even better for the future.
Yeah, right? Great, thank
Do
you.
me a favor. Try not to gratuitously say the word fuck. If you can, please.
I know, right?
Let's see.
It's gonna be hard. This is the panel where you want to be, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Ballon. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm moderating.
You gonna moderate? Okay, good. There you go. See, I've
Great,
lost
thank
my
you.
job already.
Just here for my boyish good looks.
Awesome. Great, thank you. I think we're good.
Bacon.
Bacon, plate of bacon.
Thank you very much.
Bacon. Thank you. I would like a bacon robe, please. So get loads of pieces of bacon, sew them into a robe.
You can ask for the one I can't catch it.
Ah.
Not allowed to give anybody food.
Not allowed to give them food? No bacon? Well, bacon's not strictly a food, it's also a multi-use.
It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a way of Have you seen my bacon chart? No. I bought this bacon chart, and it's basically like how much bacon is in the fridge. So you've got this big chart, and I bought it down the thing, and then it's got like a little indicator, so I could just tell Melinda, my wife, that it's on low.
Yeah.
And so when it's low, it's got this sort of description, and up near the middle, it's kind of going like, well done, you're starting to get the hang of this. Make a bacon robe out of all the bacon. And at the top, it's like, glory to the god baconator or something. It's hilarious to get to. Kind of normal. Huh?
So I've given you the 5-minute warning.
Great. Perfect. Awesome. Great, guys. Thank you.
I'm gonna stage dive too for a warning.
Yeah.
Just move
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, we'll have the mosh pit portion of the
I'm gonna
event.
make this call right now. In a minute, I'm going to say, like, you see those like chairs up the front with the white stuff on them? Go sit in the front. We're okay, you know. And all the people in red are going to be really annoyed with me. It's pretty good. I love it. It's like a psychic wasteland, like tumbleweed going on. You're not allowed in there. Is that yeah. Well mimed, sir. Well mimed.
Give it a couple more.
Anybody know any good jokes? Because we got 3 minutes, so I might as well.
Yeah.
Right now it seems really uncomfortable, so I'd rather just
It's too quiet.
and it's too quiet. What are you planning?
What's the best costume you think so far?
Best costume?
Ironically and sincerely.
Ironically, the best costume I've ever seen is in Madrid, Spain, where people don't try very hard to dress up. So if they want to go as a Klingon, they grab a big piece of clay, they chuck it in the middle of their head like that, and then show up as a Klingon. Which I'm like, I love them. I have all these pictures of me standing with like Klingons from Spain. Best costume here is the girl dressed as Jessica Rabbit. I would imagine that every man is. I'm a happily married man, but she does okay as Jessica, so I'm not going with anything else. Eric?
There's like a trans Wonder Woman who everyone was like, damn, when she walked by, and then she got close, like, oh, I question my sexuality now. That was kind of awesome. That was very like, meta. So I like that.
Uncomfortable.
And then the Campbell's soup can is pretty cool too. Awesome. Like totally blind, just walking into people. That was kind of cool.
Yes. Oh, we'll get to them. Yes, we're just kind of, yes. We've sort of not started yet. This isn't, no, this isn't.
The panel's just going to be a very loose dialogue between us all. That's all we're going to do. I guess we're good to get started. All right, everyone, thank you for coming. This is the Breaking Into Comics panel with Boom Studios. This is where we're going to crush all your hopes and dreams about breaking into the comics industry.
Just be a plumber.
Yeah, right? Find a trade, ditch comics, and go somewhere else. So I'm Bryce Carlson. I'm the managing editor over at Boom Studios. And we have Paul Jenkins, Eric Esquivel, Michael Allen Nelson, and Matt Nissenbaum up here today. So it's a very nice group going down the line because Paul's obviously been in the industry for a very long time, very prolific, working with many different publishers. So he's a great source of information, especially with breaking in because he has a great story. Eric is very, very like fresh and new, just like awesome. He's going to be the one who's going to tell you like, things you can do right now. Real good information about breaking into comics today. And then Mike is been doing comics for a while now. He's doing a lot more work right now, working at DC and working with us. And he's like that nice middle ground. So he's a good guy. And Matt is actually the newest addition to the Boom team. He's the senior director of sales and marketing. So he kind of has like a nice outside perspective to kind of help. So it's a good round group. Not round like this, Paul, but well-rounded.
I'm trying.
So I think the best way to start off is just all of us to sort of tell you our story about how we got into comics. For me, I grew up reading comics, was a big fan, and when I graduated college, I was in LA just like trying to find a job, and a friend of mine was sending around a weekly post, and there was this temp job for doing shipping and receiving at Boom Studios. I was just stoked because it was a steady gig, and it being a comic company, it was like icing on the cake. And so I came in, we were publishing Warhammer at the time, and they had tens and tens of thousands of books to go out all over the world. And at that point, Boom Studios had such a small staff that they really needed to bring people in. So apparently I'm really good at stuffing envelopes and putting them in the mail. Didn't know I had that secret power.
Brag, brag, brag.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, he's such a shipping god. I know, I hear it all the time. So I just kind of came in, put my head down, got along really well with everyone who worked there. And, for me, I was just willing to sort of do anything that they needed. I was excited to be there. Everyone got along really well as kind of like a little family. And I, wanted to be a part of it and was lucky enough for them to come in and approach me after my temp position was over with the position of executive assistant, which was really cool. So I was working with Ross Ritchie, kind of hand in hand, getting a real good sense of publishing throughout all the different divisions, editorial, marketing, sales, and everything down the line. And then from there, as we started expanding, they pulled me into editorial, which was awesome, and I've been there ever since. And now I'm the managing editor. Now I'm going to give it to the big guy right here.
I broke into comics I broke into comics twice, so I couldn't get enough. I came to the United States in 1987, and I was really young, and I was studying to be an actor. I was teaching music and drama to learning disabled children in the States, and I met a couple of guys. I was trying to be a musician, and I met a couple of guys who lived in Northampton, Massachusetts, and they did this black and white comic book, but they had sold the rights to make a TV show and a toy out of it. And they did an album cover for this god-awful band I was playing with, and they really needed help in the office, and I said, you know, why don't I come work with you guys? I had actually just broken my leg playing soccer. And that was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was the second employee. So as you can probably imagine, give it a couple of months, things went a little crazy. Next thing I know, I'm working in licensing, and it just was insane. And you can probably, it's difficult to even describe how crazy it was. And I was very young. I was 20 years old. So by the time I was 22, 23, I was director of a publishing company. You know, I had 4 business cards, like director of licensing, director of marketing promotion, and director of production as well as editor-in-chief of Tundra Publishing, which was Kevin Eastman's offshoot. So having done that for a while, I actually broke in as a freelance writer the only way that you cannot break in. I went to San Diego Comic-Con. I'd never written a comic in my life. And I went to the editor of Hellblazer. And I heard they were looking for a new writer. So I said, hey, mate, who are you looking for a new writer? And he said, what have you written? I said, I've never written anything. We give me a chance. And he went, whatever. I must have been really ingratiating. And he said, okay. So I wrote a sample script. And that was Lou Stathis, a dearly departed editor there. And he let me write a script. And about 6 weeks later, they called me, him and Karen Berger, the editor-in-chief of Vertigo, and said, congratulations, you're the new writer of Hellblazer. Which was, I kind of thought that was normal. That wasn't so hard, was it? But it was different. I mean, they knew my face because I'd been in the industry, so they kind of knew who I was, and then they took me seriously, which is, you know, is definitely relevant to what we're talking about here, which is I was known as an editor and all of that, so it wasn't like they were going to reject the discussion with me. So I had found ways for them to at least entertain the idea I could write, and then when they saw what I could do. Which I didn't know what I could do. I had no idea of comics formatting or anything, but I was always creative and I was a writer anyway, so that's how I broke in. And obviously over time, you know, I've been given an opportunity to do some pretty crazy, you know, we did, first book I did for Marvel won an Eisner Award, which they had not won one for like 13 years, and after that they just kind of gave me the keys to the castle. And it goes to show that if you have like self-confidence, it's really, really important. So I ended up, you guys like me because I've made Wolverine from Alberta. So. Favored nation status. Buy me a beer. That's all I want. Go ahead.
So I'm 26 years old, but I've been doing comics for 11 years. I started self-publishing when I was 15. I did a book called Horrible Little People that a lot of people read and liked critically. I gave like little dust jacket quotes for Gail Simone, gave like the back blurb for it. But yeah, comics are the only thing that I'm really good at and that I care about. When I was a kid, my parents were kind of absent, so Batman and Superman, Aquaman, those guys kind of raised me. Like I don't drink because Batman doesn't drink. I don't eat meat because Aquaman didn't eat his little fish buddies. So comics mean a lot to me. And I always wanted to give back to comics, and kind of like, there's kids out there who need what I needed, and I wanted to make that for them. So that's what I do. That's why I write. Yeah, I just self-published, and I pitched to little crappy zombie anthologies and got jobs on those, and just kept going up the ranks further and further, handing off books to editors whose work I enjoyed. And I'm a huge nerd for the whole creative process of comics, so it's not just, I don't just target Marvel or Boom Studios. They're like editors who I'm a huge fan of, and they're like letters I'm a huge fan of, so I target individual folks and give them my things. Not just because I wanted a job, because I wanted to be part of the conversation. Like, when you read comics your entire life, it's this thing that's like, that you're obsessed with and that you get to kind of like be an outsider on. But once you make your first one, then you're part of it. Like, no matter if it's a Kinko's book, if it's like a webcomic, or if it's something that's like this, like you're now part of the team. And I want to kind of share that and get myself out there. So that's why I make comics. And I'm lucky enough to have this to be my day job now. I'm a freelance writer, just like the book's called Freelancers, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, this is what I do, and I can't not do it, and that's why I do it. So.
the way I broke into comics is a way that I recommend you do not break into comics.
Wow. So we're 0 for 2 right now.
Well, the reason I say, is because I was very fortunate. I've been writing my entire life. I started writing, when I was, 6, and, coloring my own little pages. But I was always interested in writing prose. I wanted to be a great novelist. And what had happened is I had written a novel called Dingo. And I was fortunate at the time that Ross Ritchie was forming Boom Studios. He was putting together one of the first books they ever did, which was Zombie Tales. And he was looking for some writers to write in his anthology, and he approached me because he'd read Dingo and really liked it, and said, "Hey, I like what you do. I like how you tell a story. Have you ever thought about writing comics before?" And I'm like, "Well, I've thought about it. My brother used to color comics for Top Cow back in the '90s, so I was interested in breaking in." So I thought, okay, no, this will be fun, and I thought it'd be one of those things where he had his company for, I don't know, a week or two and published one book, and that would be that. But he really liked what I did, and the publish flourished, and he kept asking me to write more and more for him. And until I have this massive catalog of books that I've written for Boom, and now that I'm writing for DC. And I think what happened, like Eric had said, you put all this work and you develop all these projects and you get all this content out there. And what happens is people become familiar with you and also with what you can do and what you're able to do. So it wasn't until after 5 or 6 years when finally some other publishers began noticing that I was doing something, because they asked themselves, well, why does Ross keep going to this guy? What does this guy have? So that sort of piqued their interest. So it's really starting wherever you can and getting your content out. Because when I wrote my novel, I put it out for free. I did the Mark Twain thing. I created a blog, and every week I would just put a new chapter. And a new chapter, and a new chapter. And eventually just fell across the right eyes. And he was one of them, read it and really liked it. And that's, again, I'm not going to say, hey, go out, write a novel, and then find somebody who's starting a comic book company. That's not, the best way to do it, so.
So it's humbling to be up here, considering I'm such a new entrant to the comic book world. Obviously, always been a fanboy, but to sit next to these 4 gentlemen here that have such direct impacts on comic books and comic book publishing is it's incredible. So my entrance and my breaking into comics came out of necessity as opposed to coming out of a desire to want to put out the best products. I come from an online and e-commerce marketing background, and there is a real need in the comics book world for breaking the mold, for doing something different, something that hasn't been done for 50, 60, 70 years by some of these larger publishers. One of the things I'm most excited about getting to work on in the comics world is the opportunity to do something different. There's such a reach now with digital comics. There's such a reach with social media. Everyone, is constantly has all this news at their fingertips. It used to be that you would have to wait to see what would come out at your local comic book store every Wednesday, and now you can go online and you can see, previews for 3 months from now, and the covers for the issues that are coming out next year. And as a fan, it's incredibly exciting, and I want to bridge that world between the publishing world and the fan world, where I can be able to put out the best marketing I can for the fans, and drive home the best products I can for the company. And I'm just really excited to be able to get Boom's reach out there, and Boom is really, like I said, a company that is working actively to break the mold in the comic book publishing world, and we want to be the comic book publisher of the future today. And hopefully we can do that for you guys.
Yeah, so since I'm an editorial, I have probably the most keen eye on really good ways to break in right now and really bad ways to try and break in. And probably the best advice I can give you is to network. And it's not just knowing creators, writers and artists and colorists and letterers in the space, but also getting to know the people who work at the publishers. It's hugely valuable to know who's on the editorial teams, who's in the marketing teams, and who's in operations and all those kinds of things. Because when you're breaking into comics, you're not just breaking into work, you're breaking into a community. It's a very small industry, and we all know each other. And it's more about building these relationships and being a part of something rather than just going to the office and doing work. So really keep that in mind when you're breaking the comics, that it's coming in to be part of the family. And that's huge, and that all starts, with networking relationships and building that and getting to know everybody and the work that's going on. I would also say, keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening, new books, new creators who are doing things like Image is great at bringing in a lot of like new talent of stuff that you wouldn't normally see. Web comics right now are bigger than they've ever been, and there's so many talented voices out there. And it's not just restricted to what's on the stands every month. So it's growing, so there's even more things to keep track of. But right now there's a lot of people we find through that space. And kind of to echo what Eric was saying about self-publishing, like there's never been a better time to get yourself out there and to have your voice be heard and your talent be seen, because you can so easily put your stuff out there. You can release it digitally yourself. You can do zines. You go to shows and do all this. Like, it's very accessible right now. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Sam Humphreys is a perfect example of a guy who came in, found an artist, did a book that he wanted to do, was going to do it no matter what, printed, some copies, did the legwork of calling the retailers and getting them to order and figuring out real smart ways to get his book out there. And next thing you know, it sells out the morning it comes out, and then Image picks it up to do a mass distribution, and now the guy's got more Marvel work than he knows what to do with, all in the course of a very short span of time. So this is an opportunity that has never been available to comic book creators before. This kind of access, it's really cool. So it's an exciting time for you guys. I'm excited for you guys to break into comics. It's going to be great. So I think if anyone has any questions at this point, you can go ahead and start asking. Otherwise, I think we'll just kind of like jam up here a little bit. Paul, from going the editorial route into freelance writing and stuff like that, that's kind of, I'm coming in through the publishing world, that's how you came in. Do you think that is the best way to go, like working at a publisher so you get a bigger kind of idea of what's going on, or do you think going straight into creative is more beneficial?
I think here's probably what you want to know about breaking in, which is there's no one way to do it. Okay, there are millions of ways to do it. There are millions of ways to do it. Now, don't be afraid of that. Actually, embrace that and say, "Wow, man, I could go any number of ways." There's no better for editorial. I happen to go through editorial. So did Mark Waid, I think. Peter David went through editorial. Peter David was in the mailroom at Marvel. There's plenty of people that have gone through, started off their career, learned a lot about the environment of comics, and then said, "Hey, could you give me a shot?" Right? Interestingly enough, there are plenty of people who have tried to go that route. Who work at the publishers and have found that they did not have any success, say as a writer or artist, or whatever. What's going to work? Okay, let's be straightforward about it. It will work if you are hardworking. It will work if you have a good work ethic. I'm awake at 4 o'clock in the morning more than any human being I know. And no one knows when I'm there. No one thanks me for that. Well, Bryce does. But no one knows that you're doing that. When you write, I in my college lecture I always say to people, look, writers don't write. Okay, writers finish something. Don't just create something, because you're not finishing it. You get nothing to base it on. So you could break in editorially, right? But you could also break in, by doing your own self-published comic. You could do a web comic. You could do any number of things. And I think, that it's indicative of the fact that we're in an amazing environment right now. We've got the internet that just basically gives you access. I just did a Kickstarter, a couple of Kickstarters. We put Fairy Quest by myself and Umberto Ramos. We put that up on Fairy Quest. Quick, remove this man from the premises, please. We did FairyQuest and we asked for $60,000, which is a lot, but it's a very difficult book to do, and we got 95,000. Now we're known creators, and we love that product. You know, it was a really good book, and very well received. But I've seen on Kickstarter that there's an entire world there, you know, where people can really get some support, and you may only need a couple of $1,000s, maybe 10,000 to get just a product out. But guess what? That exists. I don't want to monopolize the microphone time, but I want to tell you something that should be very encouraging to you, and something that you should always bear in mind. Okay, if I'm going to give advice, it's going to be this advice. We have a tendency as people to go to Starbucks and watch, you know, 15-year-old girl in Starbucks playing the guitar, and she's not really that great. And you hear people moaning and going, she's terrible. She's rubbish, right? Well, guess what? They're not doing it. She's doing it. What's the advantage that you have? The advantage that you already have is that you want to do it and you're going to do it. You're already the 1%ers. The 99%ers can be the people that complain about it, or don't want to do it, or don't have the drive, or aren't interested. You have an opportunity to be the 1% that actually makes things. And if you have that kind of pride in yourself that you're going to make something, and you probably will, then that will drive you to finish things. And if you finish things, then you can just start showing it to people. You finish a piece of music because you've got recording software on your studio at home, you can put that out on the internet and people will judge it for themselves. So that's the thing that you should always get encouragement from, is that now you have access to like the world. You can put it out on the internet. And you know, you should always remember that. You're way ahead of the game because of your desire to already do it. Most people aren't writing stories or creating artwork, are they? You know, you already know that from your daily environment. Most people look at you and go, wow, you're weird, you're trying to write stories. Well, guess what? You're doing something that they don't do. Anyway, we should get questions. Yeah, say
Well, and don't be discouraged by like where you live too. I live in Tucson, Arizona, which is like the middle of nowhere, and I'm working with these guys who are based in Los Angeles. And actually, the book that broke me in was a book that I gave to Sam Humphries, that he gave to the editor-in-chief Matt Gagnon. It's called Blackest Terror, and it's like what if Malcolm X were Batman? He's this guy who fights like racists and Tea Party guys and like the real villains in the world who I wish there was a guy to fight. But my artist for that was this guy named Andres Sarabia, who's from Spain. He's from Bilbao, Spain. So Spain, and I'm in Tucson, Arizona. And the guy who published it was in Chicago. So the internet is an amazing thing. And I found Ander just by putting out work and then getting interviews, doing podcasts. And he happened to hear me 3 times in a row. It was just serendipity. I was on Word Balloon and Comic Book Queers and like one other random like small town thing from Arizona. And he was Google searching for stuff. He teaches himself English listening to comic book podcasts. And he heard me a bunch. And he's like, oh, this is an American writer, which to him means that I'm like sitting on a pile of Uncle Scrooge money. He's like, oh, it's an American. I want to work with an American. So he did the book with a back-end deal. He did it for free, and I wrote it for free. And we pitched it. Nobody wanted it. We just made the damn thing anyway. And then we did it again. And one of the guys who turned us down actually then picked it up and distributed it. And then I got that, and now I'm here, and that's my only job. And yeah, so just make stuff, and like the world kind of finds a way to make that happen. If that's what you're meant to do, then like things kind of bend over backwards for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing to keep in mind, because both what Eric and Paul said, the idea is that you have to be able to create. You have to be able to prove that you can make a product, because at the end of the day, I mean, this is a profession that you're trying to break into an actual occupation. It's fun, it's amazing, but it's work, and it's not easy. So, you know, that's the thing. You have to be serious about it. If you want to break into comics, you have to be serious about it. You have to study your craft, whether it's storytelling visually or writing, whether it's writing or art or whatever aspect you want to break into with, you have to be able to be the best at it that you can and study it, and then prove that you can prove a product. That's why self-publishing, the internet, is such a great way to do it. That's how I did it. That's how Eric did it. Just went ahead and made it and said, I can make something. And when editors see that, Bryce, I'm sure you'll agree with that. If somebody comes up and says, hey, look what I did, it shows that not only that you're creative, and shows what you can do is, you know, telling a story, but also that you can actually complete a project. Because, you know, I mean, this is an industry where deadlines are constant. Deadlines are constant, and that's the thing about, at least as far as the writing aspect, and I'm sure it's the same with the art. A friend of mine, John Rogers, who's a writer, he created the television show Leverage, and he has this great quote. He says, "Being a professional writer is like always having homework due," and it's true, and it's very, very true. But the thing is, if you love it and you like to produce and you like to create and you're passionate about what you do and you have the work ethic, then, you know, if you can create something on your own, get it out there, then the editor sees that, they're like, oh, no, I'm willing to take a chance on this guy. You can tell a story, but it didn't take you, 15 years to tell it. You know, you were able to do it and get it out, publish it. You can, do something to completion, and it makes editors more willing to take a chance. And once, they take a chance and you prove yourself again, you get your foot in the door, and you just, move on from there.
Really analyze yourself too. Really analyze yourself too. Make sure you want to write and not that you just want to have written, which is there's a subtle difference there where people want to I want to be on a panel with Paul Jenkins, which I've always wanted to do, but I also like sitting at 1 in the morning till I'm done. I could write from 1 until noon. I like the act of writing. I like breaking stories. I like the thrill of getting something right. I like collaborating with editors and artists, and make sure that you actually dig the craft. Because if not, it's going to be hell. Because that's your life then. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It can take 14 hours a day. Yeah. So make sure you actually like doing it before you do it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's hard, guys. Breaking into comics is hard. Working in comics is hard. It's a lot of hours. You need to be passionate. You're not getting Hollywood pay, so you better love comics if you're getting into it. And we all love comics, and we're all happy going to work every day, whether it's at home or going into the office. For me, I come in, I'm one of the few people I know in LA who's excited to wake up and go to work. Everyone else is bitching about their day job that they have. And I'm like, no, I get to work with great people. I get to be creative, get to work with writers and artists from all around the world. I haven't made. I'm on the gravy train with biscuit wheels right now. It's a good time. But I mean, to echo Eric and Mike, having finished product is huge. When people come to me with samples, be it writing or art, I automatically key in that they have something finished. Handing me a small zine that you've done is huge. I was like, oh, they took the initiative to finish something. Whether or not I think it's good or not, they sat down and they got it done and they printed it and they handed me a copy. And it's not even just that they did it, but coming to find us at a convention and hand it off speaks volumes, because it shows that you have drive, which you need a lot of in this industry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because if any of you are like me, who your writing and illustration skills are limited to stick figures and finger painting, the drive really behind what you're doing is the most important thing. In the modern comic book world right now, there are a lot of opportunities outside of being a writer and being an artist, even though those are clearly the hero positions that everyone wants to be. Now with the advent of digital comics and the advent of sales and why people, with smaller publishers and people that are self-publishing, I mean, there's people that are having to do it all on their own. The marketing side of things, the logistical side of things, even down to what Bryce was talking about earlier, shipping and what have you. It's all something that's a vital part of the business, and it all keeps it going, so that way, we can continue to put out products for everyone to enjoy. So, there's opportunities across the board. If you have the drive and you care about the space and you care about wanting to be part of, something that has legs, something that really can be a serious career, unlike, a lot of other things out there that are just a temporary fix. Then don't be ashamed if you don't have the writing or drawing chops that some of these other legendary people out there, because there's so many other opportunities for you to get to be a part of it and be lucky enough to interact with these guys in any capacity. And I'm literally living proof of that right now. And
there are times that you don't want. There are times that you don't want to be that hero position anyway. I'll give you a good example, right? You don't want to be the writer or artist when someone dressed in a Punisher shirt comes up to the booth and says, "You ruined Spider-Man." At that point, you're like, oh, okay, so it's not all gravy with biscuit wheels.
If you can't find an artist who like if you're a writer and you're having trouble finding an artist, which is like, it took me literally like 2 or 3 years to do that, just get writing out too. Like I entered a contest when I was a high school kid. I wanted to be Jimmy Olsen, so I got a job writing for my local paper as like a teen perspective columnist, and getting those columns done was something that I could show to artists and be like, hey, I make things happen and I get money for it. Like, you should join this. Like, you're marketing yourself to your artists. You're sort of a little business. When you first start off, like, you're the guy who's kind of making everything happen. Artists have an easier time getting in, because if you look at a piece of art, within a second you can know if you like it or not. If I hand someone a giant manuscript, they're probably not going to read that. Like, it's going to take some investment to get into it. So write for your yearbook, write for your school newspaper, write for your local alternative weeklies, start a blog. Just you don't have to be doing comics. Like, Michael did a novel and broke in that way. I wrote for Fox News Latino, which has like nothing to do with comics at all, and showed guys and got in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, and all that boils down to the networking. By getting yourself out there and putting your work out there and interacting with new people. It's that networking space. I was having a conversation a little earlier today with Danielle Corsetto and Zach Sterling, who are two of our Adventure Time creators over at the Kaboom line. And they had never met before, but they had been working collaboratively on one of our new Adventure Time products. And Danielle was telling me, she goes, like, normally I do everything myself, and it's really hard to relinquish that kind of control. But Zach would put out the art pieces for me, and he'd come up with these ideas that I would never have thought of before, and they were so perfect and so much of a fit. And just that networking and being able to take a step back and let some other fresh eyes collaborate with you or take a look at what you're doing. I mean, it's only going to propel your work to be better in the future. And who doesn't want to be putting out the best work that they can do?
Right, yeah, comics is hugely collaborative. It goes back to what I was saying about coming into the community as a whole. Everyone's working together, so when you're coming in, like, be ready for that, and it's worth spending some time to develop working with people and getting some stuff under your belt. We have a question in the back?
Eric was talking about how long it took him to find an artist, and I was wondering if somebody was coming to Boom and was given permission to pitch, which I don't think anybody here should assume that they're going to get. But if they were to try and come to you with a pitch, would they be better off coming in with a full team, or will you guys entertain pitches just from writers? Will you look at artwork or artists for prospective projects? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's no one way. We've had books come to us that have talent attached to it. We've had writers come with ideas, and we've put together the teams and stuff. It really just depends on the project. No one's ever going to complain if you're coming in with artist ideas and stuff, or you have friends that you've been talking to about the project and are excited. But at the same time, it's not necessary. There's I really pride myself on being able to find talent and develop this new stuff, and I think our editorial team does a phenomenal job of putting stuff together. And when we're doing books, it's about being partners, with everyone we're working with and working together. So we want to have all of our resources available for everyone we work with, whether it's editorial, marketing, or what have you.
I lost a job once, though, because I had an artist attached, and they wanted me to write it, but they didn't want the artist. And the artist and I were committed together. We wanted to do the project together, and it was like, you take both of us, take none of us. And they were like, none of us. Then so be careful with that too. Like, if you really have something that you want to tell with someone and you're very passionate about telling it with them, just do it, and then pitch it afterwards. And once, it's harder to say no to a finished product, because editors, all they have to do is just go press the red button that says yes, and then it just comes out to if you're at the lower levels, like the very low like Comixology Submit, or like the local kind of like indie comics with an X kind of deal, that's way better to do initially. I think the higher you go, the less control you have over who you're collaborating with.
I'll even go a step further and say that any comic book publisher out there that isn't actively searching for the new talent, in any capacity, is not really living up to their potential. There's really some great creators out there who everyone really wants to work with, but they all had to start from somewhere. And at the end of the day, if we're not going out there, and interacting with potential new creators at conventions, at our offices, at any opportunity we can, then then we're leaving some incredible opportunities on the table. So I definitely would encourage everyone, if you're ever thinking about wanting to pitch, don't be intimidated because it's a large company. Like, get out there. If your work is good enough, it'll speak for itself, and people will take a chance on you.
People want you to be awesome too. Like every editor wants to find the next Alan Moore. Like, everybody wants you to rule so they can make money off of you. Like, and everybody's rooting for you. So don't be discouraged. Everybody wants you to succeed. And then whenever they open a submissions package, they want it to be the coolest thing ever. So you're going in with that kind of bright disposition right off the bat.
I was wondering if I could invite your input on a scenario. My friend and I are fairly far into the process. What we've done is we've conceived of 4 issues, outlined them. We're partway through the script of the first issue. We've done the character synopsis. We've mocked up drawings and covers and stuff like that and seen how it's going to look and everything. And now we're in the process of putting together the first one. The idea being to just start putting out the 4 issues and maybe a book at the end. In the process of doing that, it's one of those scenarios where it's going to get made. But shop it in the meantime with the idea that it would be picked up. And I was wondering if you guys could weigh in on the validity of that scenario and possibly any suggestions on fine-tuning this. We're kind of hedging our bets, if you know what I'm saying. We'll get it out, but if we can get somebody, behind us, like a comic company, and what your feedback on that would be, and whether it's a doomed way to go about it, or if you have any fine-tuning ideas for that or anything. So.
No, I mean, I think that's good. You have all of that time that you're going to be producing the series, so you might as well be using it to also get it out there. It's not going to hurt. So yeah, I think that's a perfect way to go about it. You know that you're going to get it done, and then just take advantage of that time you have to go out and show people and keep people updated. I've gotten things like that before where people are working on a series and they have the first 1.5 issues done and they send it to me and I can see it as it goes along.
So we're not stealing any thunder of ourselves for putting it out there. And I forgot to mention, we were going to try to get some local buzz. I used to be a music publicist, so I know a bit about getting some local articles, try to get that to show what we've done locally. I don't know if you guys know it, but Kickstarter isn't really an option for a lot of Canadians. You need an American partner to actually get a Kickstarter thing, which is we're hoping they'll come around on that because it's so good for everybody.
Yeah. Well, also one thing to keep in mind is that generally the first thing you're going to do, it's not going to succeed. The second thing you're going to do, it's not going to succeed. The third and fourth, probably not going to succeed. It's by about attempt number 15 or 16 is when you finally start to see traction. And so, and again, especially in this industry, you have to be able to prove that you can generate content, on a regular basis. And so that's why, like, I agree with Bryce. It's like, if you've got that, get it out there, because what that does, it shows that you can do something. It shows that you can produce something. It shows what you're able to do. And then you can be like, all right, well, while we're shopping this around, what are we working on next? Always be doing something. Always be doing something. Because it shows that you are professional, that you can, continually generate content, but also it improves the craft, because we learn by doing. It's funny because the novel that I wrote, that Ross read and which started my career, I eventually adapted into a graphic novel about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years after I had written the novel itself. And what I realized is I thought to myself, wow, I'm a better writer than I was 5 years ago. And I was really proud of that novel. But and so what happens is by the process of doing and continuing to improve, you get better and get better and get better, and that gets you more notice. So while it's a really good idea to get that done and get it out there and shop it out, once it's done, be working on the next thing.
More questions?
Like, it's important to set deadlines too. Like, if you have a book they're putting out monthly or bi-monthly or whatever your schedule is, target an editor, mail them the first one, and tell them what your schedule is. Like, so this is a monthly book, and then commit to that, and have every month on the 15th mail out that book. And that's really powerful to show that you have the kind of the drive and that will and that ability to get work done. I came into a couple companies on scenarios where there were writers before me on books, and they left abruptly. And then I jumped in because I can make monthly deadlines. And that's happened to me several times in my career. Getting a rep like that is almost like more important than like anything else. Just knowing that you're a workhorse, because the train leaves the station every 30 days, whether or not you're, so yeah.
So the fact that I'm a freelance writer for a living.
Yeah.
I'm actually working full-time for somebody like that. So deadlines are kind of,
Yeah.
way big, like, so if you got that down, that's
Yeah, for both writers and artists, you can spend your whole life making one book and have it be amazing and give it to an editor, and then when you have 30 days to make a book, then you suck, and that happens all the time. So it just show that's not the case.
Oh, thank you.
I'm getting jealous of these people next door. I think. Okay, just bear with me, okay? You want to do this? Okay, we're gonna just yell like woohoo. Ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right, yay! Correct. Yeah. See how you like us now.
Yeah, more questions? Yeah.
I was just wondering, in the digital space, especially if you're offering your work for free to get it out there, does an issue by issue, like monthly issue thing make sense, or does it make more sense to do things like weekly or bi-weekly?
Well,
I think
that's a good question.
The sigh is that's probably a work in progress for all of us to understand. We do not know the answer to that because it depends on the project, it depends on the content, it depends on the style, it depends on the way that you've sold it, I guess, right, and how you marketed it. It depends on the audience, it depends on the environment that you put it out in. It depends on, it's going to be different if you make your sort of marketing network through, a system of established websites, or if you just try to do it on Kickstarter or some other thing. Apparently can't do it here, but, it just depends. And so you can't expect that there is one answer to that. I almost feel like you probably have to be very intuitive about that and say, hey, listen, I think that this is, if you guys are familiar with Kickstarter, there was actually a little thing called the Order of the Stick. A little guy who did the Order of the Stick, and he had built a 10-year fan base, and he raised $1.2 million when he put Order of the Stick up to do it.
He had to cut it
He had
off.
to stop, he couldn't handle it. But he made $1.2 million off of that. Yeah, I know, it was good. And that's amazing, brilliant. God, so I want that for everybody, good for him, because he stuck to it and he put out, he had his thing, and it was a really cute book, and it was a good little story, and then he finally put them in print. People were just, he had an established fan base. But he obviously had hit his audience, don't you think? He must have done really well with his audience, and they were very, very loyal to him, so when he published, he's making all this money. That's probably your answer, which is there is no specific answer to that. It would be unfair to think that there is. We're in the Wild West in terms of the internet right now. Who knows what's going to happen next week? I myself am actually working on new augmented reality stuff and all kinds of different forms of storytelling, and working where I live in Georgia to do these new things. And part of the sell that we're trying to give to people is we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. We have no idea. It's going to be when Google Glass comes out. When you guys have glass, when you're literally wearing a computer on your arm and going everywhere, that's going to change the way that we tell stories completely. It's going to change the audience that you give them to. So no one knows the answer to that.
With the digital space, like Paul said, it really is. It's like the new frontier. Like there aren't really any major market makers that are setting the real bar, because there's so much opportunity to do whatever you want. So a great piece of advice I would say is whatever medium you choose to endeavor when you're breaking into the digital world, just own it, stick with it. Don't waver and start to do it one way, start to do it monthly, and then realize that, well, maybe I want to be putting out weekly content, or maybe I just want to be putting out content whenever I can get it done. Whatever you choose to do, that is it, and you own it. And if you stick with it enough, other people will start to realize, and it'll catch on. And it might end up being the market making opportunity, and that might end up being the standard.
I think an important thing is just getting it in front of people. And that's why I think, especially starting off, even if you're not charging for it and just putting it out there for free, you're getting people to read it, and that is huge. It's immensely important. The more, because that builds word of mouth, and it's also again, that's what I did, and it worked. It worked for me, where it just came across the desk of the right people, just because I wanted people to see what I could do, and just made it available for them. And then eventually somebody was like, you know what, I'm willing to take a chance on you, and I will pay you to write these pretty words. So there's value there. But yeah, but like Paul was saying, we can't really answer the question. We just don't know. It's still, it's an unknown.
But
if anybody figures it out, let us know.
Yeah.
But don't like tailor your approach right now to like to do what you think an editor wants. Like this is the time where you get to be like batshit insane and do whatever you want to do. Like you guys aren't tethered to an editor. You aren't tethered to companies. You don't have to have like a company line. You don't have to have any certain rating. Now is just the time to be yourself and be yourself very loudly. And the more like Sam Humphries broke into boom with a book about a cop loving a dog. Like literally, like Our Love Is Real is an amazing, amazing book. He got into Boom and Marvel with this book that's like they would never greenlight from themselves, but it's a book that tells you what kind of person Sam is, what his idiosyncratic storytelling techniques are. Just like be you right now, and then you can get to the jobs later. And then they'll tell you everything to do, and they'll manage you, and they'll do all that stuff. That comes later. Right now is the good part where you can just, this is like the glory time to just be crazy. Get as much attention as you can by just being you.
Question in the middle here.
So when people approach you with prototype work, like, you know, unfinished scripts or just artwork by themselves, whose desk does that end up on, and what does that process look like? Is it one guy with just a big red stamp, rejected?
Well, obviously Bryce will be the best person to answer this question, but I know for me personally, when it comes to, we can't really accept, or a lot of times I'll work the booth, I can't accept anything, I can't even look at anything that's typed, anything that's written. Just for like legal purposes to protect us and to protect the creator who's presenting it to me. Our work is a different story. You know, as far as how to get in touch with an editor, if you are a writer, you know, how does somebody do that?
Drinks, lots of drinks late at the bar. Seriously, like it sounds silly, but if you know who editors are and if you're at a con and you know they're there and you're able just to start a conversation, even if it's not a business conversation, you know, like I said, like you're getting to know people in the community, and editors like drinks a lot.
I'll tell you how not to do it. When I was at Tundra, somebody started sending me packages, and it would just say red on the outside. The packages would be red. I'd open it, and it would be something red inside of it. And it came every day for 10 days. There was a red toy car. There was, you know, something red. And I was like, I have no idea, but this is kind of creepy. And I was going out with a girl who was a little volatile at the time, and she got really annoyed and very jealous, and then decided that she couldn't hack it anymore. And she got really mad at whichever crazy slut in town was sending me all these red packages, and so she kind of went off. And then it was revealed to me the person sent in the last one, it was an established professional that wanted to do this thing and thought it would be very gimmicky, and I kind of said to him, just so you know, I'm really not going to do that because my girlfriend broke up with me because of you. There you go, gimmicks. I don't get it, man. There's no substance, right? You don't want gimmicks. Although I will tell you that if you do want to ever send anything, send it FedEx or UPS, because editors like getting FedEx packages. Seriously, isn't that true?
Well, we also open those ones first.
You open them, but you don't open it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just doing your homework. Like recognizing editors by their face is exciting too for them, because like, you know, people always want to come and see like, oh, it's Paul Jenkins, Michael Allen Nelson, but like if it's like an editor or someone else in the company, that's kind of cool. It's the, you know, one in every 20 people know who that is, so that's cool.
Also, something that I think is very important is know who you're speaking to as far as what they produce. So if you come to, if you come to Boom, but your idea is something that obviously is something that you know Boom is not going to publish, you're not really doing yourself any favors. So what you should do, do your research, find out who all the publishers are, find the publishers that publish work like what you're producing. Just because they're going to automatically have, they're going to want to sit down and talk to you about that more readily than somebody that looks at something and says, oh, that's great, but we don't publish that. So really you really have to do your homework and know who you're pitching to.
Right.
The one thing that I feel is also really vital, and this can really apply to, a lot of different professions, not just comics, but, when in doubt, go to the source. I mean, anything that you feel like you want to email, like you're better off getting on the phone. Anything you want to say on the phone, you're better off speaking to someone directly in person. Like, it has so much more weight and impact when you go. I mean, yes, at shows, it is difficult to like get a hold of someone if there's, a million things going on. But if you have the opportunity, do it in person, do it in the most, formal way that you can, as opposed to just, sending an email with an attachment. Because let's be honest, we're constantly inundated with emails and phone calls because, at the end of the day, as hard as it is to believe, we are operating a business here and there's a lot of things that are going on. So, if you're a little shy or if you feel a little intimidated, like, drop it, be Mr. Confident, and go right to the source, and you know, give it a shot.
Or Ms. Confident, sorry.
Pardon me. But yeah, you know, that's really that's what I can say.
I'd like to add something to that, though. Also be aware it shows that everyone is incredibly busy. So if you, you know, and you're ready to approach, and you know, you see an editor there, you're ready to approach the editor, walk up to him or her, you know, introduce yourself and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so, interested in, you know, I'd love to have the chance to pitch you an idea. You know, if you have any questions or whatever, but make it quick, make it in and out, because understand that they are busy. Because it shows that, you know, that you respect them as professionals, and you understand that they're going through a lot right now. Doing shows, it's a lot of work and it's very taxing. And, you know, the last thing you want to do is, you know, sequester this person for half an hour while, you know, they're running late for a panel or a meeting, or, you know, there's always something to be doing. So the quicker you can get in and out, the better the impression that you'll make.
Well, that's all the time we got, guys. Thank you so much for coming to the panel. I know there's a few of you have questions.
2, 1.
For some of you who did have questions, I'll be outside if you guys want to come and talk for a little bit.
We're downstairs at 200 and 400, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the booth, yeah.
Yeah.
Downstairs.
And then you can also come by the booth for the rest of the day. We'll be around.
Yep.
I'm not letting that go on.
Yeah, right.